Greetings. Today's talk focuses on two areas. First, we focus on what's going on with the stock of Tesla. The second thing that we cover today is a common theme that we've been covering, focused on what's going on with the semi-truck and Nikola and this new lawsuit in terms of why they've done it. And then finally, we look at layoffs and some other profitability issues that are going on for Tesla right now. Greetings, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for taking time out to visit with us. If this is your first time on our channel, please take time to like and subscribe. Your like affects the ranking of our videos, and it's greatly appreciated if you support us in this fashion. And secondly, we are on Patreon. Any support there helps us to improve all aspects of how we're executing as a firm. Today's show is kind of a follow-on to a show we did actually last Friday. What's going on right now is that there's kind of a battle between Tesla and Elon Musk and the shorts. And so I chose to do a show last Friday because I wanted the folks that were investors and that were also folks that followed our channel to be able to benefit from exposure to how and why the stock price moves. So what we pointed out last week was the fact that Tesla was in an interesting process where the fast money guys or the hedge funds were able to respond quickly in their buy or sell of Tesla stock based on new news. And so as we know, the shareholders meeting revealed that the 5,000 number is what they're looking to get to by the end of this month, and then follow on that, hopefully with growth in the numbers of Model 3s being produced. So this is an interesting sort of back and forth going on, because one of the assumptions is that Tesla would do a really bad job of being able to get to that 5,000 and then beyond, and therefore there'd be profitability issues. One of the things you might recall is that Elon Musk said it was boring to respond to analysts' questions about production of the Model 3. And the reason why it's boring is that if Tesla doesn't hit the number, the consequences of a lower stock price may be very much lower. If in fact they did hit the number, you'd see a steadying of the stock price and a dramatic move up. So we're in an interesting period right now, because as we shared with you, what was going to happen and has occurred is basically another 10% increase in the value of the stock. The peak yesterday, the 13th of June 2018, was at 354. And after it got to that height, it kind of settled down and finished at $342 a share. I think we're right on the edge of, there's something that's called capitulation. So if Tesla's stock price got into, let's say, the 380s, 390s zone, the amount of money being lost by the hedge funds can be so great that they're forced into capitulation, which means that they, based on their covenants, they have to buy the stock and unwind their positions. So I believe that the steadying point for Tesla's stock price is somewhere in the $330 to $340 a share range, for a lot of reasons that we could get into if you guys pose the questions that necessitate me to answer that. But basically, that's about the settle down point until we see the 5,000 a week and possibly getting above that number. So what's going on right now with it being in the 350 or 40s, heading for 350s, is that there can end up being battles between different hedge funds to see who's going to control the situation. So what that means is that one hedge fund will see another hedge fund will blow out their covenants once they've lost a certain amount of money. So right now, for every 15-point increase in Tesla's stock price, there's $1 billion that's lost that they have to sell and unwind the position because they've got all the covenants related to their situation. So this is a whole party that's going on to the side. And one of the things that can happen is there are different hedge funds that can try to help the stock price to go higher as a way to punish their competitors and make money in the process. So this war can be very interesting because you can see unusual movements of the stock that are rather dramatic and involve a large, uh, uh, a lot of changes. So, by the way, I want to remind you, greetings from Sweden, but we typically hold off until the end to respond to your comments. Our viewers have asked to do that because most of our viewership is typically after we've posted. So I wanted to run through the whole stock thing for you because the next 10 to 15 days of Tesla could be kind of a wild ride. And I say that because basically you could actually see the stock price rise 50 points in the next week. And then after that, bounce up another 50 points based on hedge funds unwinding and getting squeezed. And then soon thereafter, the stock price could actually fall back because it tends to follow a more steady pattern related to actual investors being involved in the stock price rather than just a battle between the hedge funds. So it's fun to watch. If you're interested in purchasing this stock, it's a good time, I still think, to get in. But once we get to 5,000 units a week on the Model 3 and the revenue that goes with it, I really think that the stock price will sort of steady at a higher number and get ready to move further north of that as you get more production that on a weekly basis that follows that $5,000 unit per week bogey. The next, so anyway, a lot of action in the stock price. I think it's worth noting because you know, you can kind of use it as a determine when you want to get in and take a position if you want to make money on Tesla stock. The second thing I wanted to cover today focuses on the whole issue of the recent layoffs. One of the open questions on Tesla was if in fact both the Model 3 factory and the Gigafactory were being sort of rebuilt. The question that came up was how were the costs going to be handled for those rebuilds, theoretically in the $100 million range, if in fact you're trying to get to profitability and scale at the battery and at the Model 3 factory will lend itself to that. And it looks like Tesla's decision is to do these layoffs as a way to get that. I really think that these are actually layoffs and not firings because the company is really trying to focus its manpower add to where all the cars are being produced. And that means, you know, more people to go to a 24-hour day production cycle and all the sort of focus costs associated. And I think a lot of the people that are being laid off will end up coming back in some other form. The other sort of titled item that I was going to cover today is the whole discussion of Daimler Benz and Nikola claiming that Tesla is somewhat of a fraud on the truck. And in this iteration, I wanted to look at the fact that Nikola recently sued Tesla. The lawsuit focused on the fact that Tesla is copying the external portions of the Nikola truck, and therefore potential customers might be confused between a Tesla truck and the Nikola truck. And therefore, Nikla might be harmed in their sales in the process. When I first saw this, I was like, wow, this is a shocker because Nikola doesn't even have a truck you can actually drive right now. Our customers can drive, and they're talking about customer confusion. My other statement on this was the fact that Nikola deliberately chose the name that they did because Nikola is a first name. Nikola Tesla is the name of the inventor. And by using the name Nikola, Tesla was now stuck in the position of Nikola infringing on the reputation that had been built up by Tesla with customers over time. So I was kind of shocked to see the kind of lawsuit Tesla should have filed against Nikola being filed against Tesla. So what's fascinating to me is that there's something that's really interesting that's come up, which is the fact that Nikola, their business strategy doesn't include doing any R&D. Everything about the firm, if in fact it actually goes, is outsourced. The manufacturing is being outsourced. All of the R&D work that's being done on different components of their truck are being done by their suppliers. And those suppliers are also doing investments into the firm. So the amazing question that was kind of lurking is perhaps why are they filing this suit when the chance of success is actually kind of low? And the answer is $1 million worth of legal fees is easily worth the opportunity to comb through Tesla's factories as well as the non-filed for patents. And I found this kind of fascinating because at the end of the day, um, Nikola potentially, if the discovery process in the lawsuit works, gets an opportunity to go and, in essence, deconstruct the battery of the truck to determine what Tesla's doing there, and then bring the answer to that to competing firms to build that battery and enable um, there to be less R&D needed by Nikola. So basically, a $1 million lawsuit against Tesla runs the potential of saving Nikola $100 to $200 million in development costs when it comes to everything about the truck that Tesla's doing. As you've noticed, there are two trucks in existence. Customers are being allowed to drive them, but nobody's had a chance to take it apart to see how it was built, as was the case with the Model 3 battery and the Model 3 by competitors. As you also may recall, the folks at Daimler indicated that, if the truck actually works, they look forward to being able to buy a couple of them and take them apart because they feel like they're way behind, which I think they really are. So I perhaps have to take hats off here to the folks at Nikola, because why not spend a few $100,000 in legal fees in order to get $100 million, $200 million worth of information and be able to use that to compete with Tesla over time. And so therefore, they're claiming Tesla can't compete and it's a fraud. And their goal perhaps is to confirm that in terms of the research that's being done as I'm describing. But I think it's bad for Tesla that the lawsuit occurred, bad if they have to go through a discovery process that includes Nikola climbing through all of their facilities in that lawsuit process. But it's actually kind of smart marketing/legal work on behalf of the folks at Nikola. So I kind of have to take my hats off to them and say those guys are really bright and are saving a lot of money in R&D process by doing so. I'm also, when it comes to Nikola, I'm also of the camp, I continue to be of the camp where I don't think that truck will ever be built. And the main reason is that I believe that the off-the-shelf technology that they're using to build their truck, Toyota already does a hydrogen truck. And when it comes to electrics, there are too many sort of established firms like Packard and Kenilworth, et cetera, that are building electric vehicles that will be competing in the space using the very same technology, but they already have a global footprint to support what they're doing. So my overall assessment is that there's not enough innovation going on when it comes to Nikola to supersede not only Tesla, but actually to supersede all the other major competitors that have to enter that space. And the 800 units that have been ordered by InBev's Budweiser division, I think is an amazing order, but I think there's a contingency because if it's never built, I don't think this whole thing happens. My final note on this whole thing, so bottom line is that great move by Nikola to file the suit. I think they'll gain information that they wouldn't have gained publicly or by consultants by going through the deposition process. And I just think it's smart business, but great firms don't waste money on lawsuits. They use that same money to do R&D. And Nikola doesn't do R&D, so I guess it's better to do their R&D through the legal process. The last thing I'd like to cover is the fact that one of the things, this is called Tesla Fan Insight, and we really want the company to do well. I wanted to remind all of you that if you are an owner of a Tesla, I would, again, go easy on the above 40-mile-an-hour use of autopilot, especially if there are fixed objects next to the roadway. Those are vehicles built and delivered after January 1st of 2017. Secondly, if you have repair work that's needed for your vehicle, please take it into the facility to pick up your loaner and drop it off, only because the cost to Tesla of their process are so high that it's a real money drain on the company to do field repairs as they've been doing. And anything we can do to pitch into the success of the firm, I think would be helpful. Looking forward to any and all comments. Please note this is a Tesla Fan Insight page, and some of you like to fire sort of ugly comments on Tesla and the company. I think the company has some issues that we can all pitch in to help them solve, but I think the mission statement that's going on. You know, the final note I wanted to make as I was reviewing the numbers, if you look behind me, there's video that Tesla has up on the movements of the Model 3. And I was really fascinated because in our next issue, we'll be covering the e-tron from Audi. There are 250 of them on the road right now, and then they're going to be selling them next year. The e-tron Audi is running 248 miles in range, and I believe that the price point is going to be in the $80,000 to $90,000 once they're out price range. What I think is surprising on this is that the $35,000 Tesla coming out next year is going to be rolling at 220 miles of range, you know, for basically half the price. So I'm fascinated by how this is all going to work out because of how customer reactions might be. So our next show is going to sort of cover sort of what's the story on competitors and how do they affect Tesla's long-term future. So again, our next show we're covering, and our next show will be Friday of this week, which is the 15th of June. We'll be kind of looking at Nikola, we'll be looking at the e-tron, the fact that the new factory, which will be done next year, and then the Gigafactory done the year after in China, I believe is going to be a bigger unit sales than all of the rest of Tesla combined, based on how much money the Chinese are putting up and their need to address what's going on. And I think the implications of that are pretty interesting in terms of how that'll hit Tesla stock. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Please, reminder to like anytime you like our page. It definitely affects our rankings. The second thing I'd like to ask is that we could use your support on Patreon. We do put an ad in every 5 or 6 minutes. So by sticking around for 5 to 7 seconds, it really helps to build our channel in terms of the resources needed to improve what we're doing to a next level. We'd also like any and all suggestions on how we might improve over time. And you know, I think that any and all input is always is appreciated. So Julio, adios. Greetings from my friend in Sweden. Enough respect, brethren. I'm in agreement with you. The stock is moving nicely. I'm surprised about the layoffs right now because I felt like all that headcount was necessary to address all the needs that Tesla has in terms of being successful. So I think it's kind of strange, but if it helps profitability in the short term so that they can get to break even and meet some of the metrics that helps to let the company be successful, so be it. But it's hard to get motivated employees if you're not sure if you're going to be fired the next day. I think that's a tough situation all around. As usual, just wanted to say tschüss, mach's gut in German, au revoir, au revoir tout à l'heure in French, lehitraot Hebrew, adios in Espanol, too easy. I usually don't do that one. Hoda hafez, Farsi, and in my Jamaican patois, enough respect wa woodman. So keep your eyes out for interesting news or questions that might be popping up on Tesla. Wow. Hey, good point. Cost of robots is high versus humans. Robots also can make mistakes that humans don't, and you don't find out about it until you have defects to repair later. At any rate, thanks once again for joining us. Looking forward to our next encounter on Friday. Have a great day and enjoy the rising stock price of Tesla. Bye for now.